Hey guys, all right, we got our live going. Let me just make one little quick tweak here. Sorry, I'm getting on a couple minutes late here, just testing out some new streaming software. But all right, so hey guys, Christine here, and I'm going live on both, hopefully, on both YouTube and on Facebook with a fun cooking demo today. I know we're all busy, right? You know, life is busy. Even with the kids back to school, we're playing catch up as moms, or if we're not parents, you know, life is still busy. So I have some quick and easy recipes for you that are healthy, using nourishing plant-based ingredients. I know you're gonna love these. So the first one is millet. Millet cooked with some delicious sweet veggies. And by the way, hopefully my audio is going okay. Maybe I should check over on Facebook just to make sure that my, that was the tech issue yesterday, was my audio. Let me just take one moment just to make sure how we're doing on Facebook. Okay, so sorry, just one moment here, guys, before we get into the meat of it, or the no meat. Okay, let's see. Can someone give me a shout out here? Let's see. I'm having a hard time seeing comments, but well, we'll see if we get some comments here. Oh, there I am live. Okay, yeah, a little bit of delay, but at least this way I can watch your comments. All right, so yeah, so if anybody wants to let me know how we're doing with the let's see here. With the audio. All right, well, I'm gonna keep an eye out for any comments popping up. It's a little harder to tell here on Facebook versus YouTube. We'll get the hang of this. You know what? I'm just gonna go with it rather than delay here. Hopefully the audio is good. And all right, so yeah, back to our easy recipes. So fingers crossed that my audio is good. We'll find out later and keep perfecting it. But I've got a lot of fun ingredients here. And so the first one is millet. I'm going to show you how to make. This is a small little grain. You can see it's very tiny. It's a smaller grain, of course, obviously smaller than like brown rice. If you haven't made it before, it's a quicker cooking grain. It doesn't take as long as brown rice. It only takes 25 minutes or so. So it's a little bit faster. And just on its own, it has like a nice, you know, kind of mild flavor, but I like to flavor it up with some nice root vegetables. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in a pot along with some squash. Here I have about a half cup of winter squash that I cubed up. I'm gonna put this in my pan. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add some red cabbage. So this is just some purple cabbage, red cabbage, whatever you want to call it. But it's also about a half cup that I diced up. I'm going to add this to my pot as another layer. You can add whatever vegetables you like. If you want to add, you know, carrots, if you want to add parsnips, celery is nice in here. You can even add, you know, mushrooms if you like, you know, so just kind of play around with it. And then I'm adding some beets. I like to add ones that kind of have a nice like sweet flavor, and ones that are maybe a little heartier because they are going to cook for 25 minutes. So if I was to do like summer squash or zucchini, it would get a little on the mushy side, which I don't care for. So I'm not going to use those. So I've got all my veggies in there. You can see a nice little layering of the veggies. Then I'm going to add my millet on top. I just basically rinsed this millet. So there we go. And I soaked it, actually. That's right. I did soak it overnight. So it's always a good idea to soak grains and beans. I always recommend soaking beans overnight. There's some beans that aren't as crucial, like lentils or mung beans. You know, you don't have to worry so much about soaking those. But anyway, so I did soak that to make it a little more digestible. I'm putting that on top of our veggies. Now I'm going to add my water, or you could use vegetable broth. But I got some nice alkaline water here, so I'm going to put that in there. So that was 1 cup of millet. I'm adding, let's see here, this is going to be, you can do anywhere from like 2.5 cups of water to even 3 cups of water, depending how soft you like it. I'm going to go for 2.5 this time, just because I did soak it too, and it absorbs some of the liquid. So you don't want to necessarily get too soft. So now what I'm going to do is bring that up to a boil and lower it to simmer, and it's going to simmer for about 25 minutes. So it is, you know, it's not like fast. It's not like cooking pasta, but in a relative world, I consider that pretty quick and easy 30-minute dinner. So by the way, I just want to mention that as I was chopping up my vegetables, I have here my little food scraps container, and I keep this in my freezer. This is just a little FYI tip. I saved in here all of the celery ends and some of the squash skins and the shiitake mushroom stems from another recipe that I'm going to make on Instagram at 12. By the way, welcome. This is like, the first official Christine Live show that I'm doing, but I'm going to start to do this every, starting today. So, resuming on Monday. I'm going to take a break on the weekends, but Monday through Friday, every weekday at 11 o'clock Eastern time, I will be live here on Facebook and simulcasting on YouTube. Hopefully, I hope the tech is working out. And then I'm going to do Instagram live every day at 12. Again, Monday through Friday. This is a weekday thing, but so back to my point. From the Instagram video, I'm going to be using shiitake mushrooms. So I just saved all my shiitake stems. And these are the kinds of things you can accumulate in a little container, keep it in your freezer until it's all filled up. Once it's filled up, you can go ahead and make your own homemade vegetable broth. It's just kind of a nice money saver. It's, using stuff that would normally go in the garbage anyway. And I just love doing that. So just wanted to mention that. So while that's coming up to a boil, I'm just going to add a little pinch of salt. This is my Redmond real salt. I love this brand of salt. It's really nice. And I actually have a discount code for you guys to save 15% off on all their products. They not only have salt, but they have a toothpaste. Actually, I have a tube of it right here. It's their earth paste. And if you haven't tried it, this is like a nice lemon flavor. And they have different flavors that are just really mild, so they're good for kids. But anyway, so the Redmond salt is really nice, and you guys get to save 15% off. So I'll put that in the comments. Actually, on YouTube, I'm not sure how. On YouTube, I'll put that in the information below the video. So, all right. So there's our little pinch of salt, or you can skip the salt if you're doing like a no salt diet. That's fine. So while that's coming up to a boil, let me make sure I have my lid floating around. Sorry, guys. That's the only aspect of live. It's like if you realize you forgot a step or let's see, some kind of cooking tool, you gotta poke around for it. It's here somewhere. Here it is. It was hiding. All right, so we got our lid, and now while that's coming up to boil, I'm going to work on my poached apples, because poached apples is such an easy thing to make. I don't know about you guys, but my daughter's back to school and they're only allowing fruits and vegetables as the snack because they're doing little half days and not a full lunch. So, you got to get creative with these fruits and veggies. You don't want to send the same old boring thing like grapes every day. Grapes are wonderful, but kids could get sick of them if you're doing the same thing every day. So make a poached apple. That could be a fun thing to have. So with these, I'm just slice these apples in half, and I took the core out using a melon ball tool. So that's kind of a nice little FYI. I also take a little bit of a little piece of the skin off the back. So just a little piece like that, and then it will set flat like that. So that's just another little tip, and that's the chef's snack. And so then your melon baller, you just basically, dig in there with your melon baller and just kind of scoop out the center, and that just easily removes the seeds really quickly and neatly. And then you take your knife and just take a little end piece off and the other end piece, and you've got a perfect little apple for poaching. Now, poaching, you might be wondering if you've never poached fruit, what is it? It's basically just cooking it in a pot with a little liquid. So that's what we're going to do. And I have my skillet right back here. So normally I would do like a whole bunch of these, but I'm just going to do a small little demo amount. So I'm putting these apples in here. Now you can literally just cook your apples just like this. You don't have to get fancy here. But what I'm going to do is add a little bit of some fun additions to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to take some, you could put water on the bottom, just enough to cover the bottom, or I'm going to put some pear nectar, or you could do apple juice. What else could you do? Apple cider might be nice. You could even do a little fruit juice concentrate if you want, but the idea is just to cover the bottom. Like you really don't want much. That's probably not even a quarter cup. Maybe it's 3 tablespoons, something like that. Just enough to, keep them from sticking, but not enough that they're going to get soggy. We don't want apple sauce here. We want to keep, their shape, and they'll kind of like poof out too much and break out of their skins if it's too watery in there. Now for the filling, I am going to use a little nut butter, but if I was going to send these along with my daughter's snack, I wouldn't want to use nuts because, at the schools, they're pretty strict about nuts or other ingredients. You'd want to just do the apples with maybe a little bit of some raisins and cinnamon, and just keep it all fruit simple. But if you're not avoiding nuts, this does make a really yummy topping. So what I'm going to do here is mix together a little bit of almond butter. So I've got a sprouted almond butter. This is Gopal's. Thank you, Gopal. So I just put in maybe like 2 generous tablespoons of this raw almond butter. I'm going to put a little bit of sweetener. Now you could put sweetener in the form of a little maple syrup, or I have a couple of soaked dates. So I'm going to use those. I was saying yesterday, I did another live yesterday, and I said that I like to keep dried fruit just soaking in my fridge in water. Oh, this one's an apricot. Yeah, so it's a mix of like dried apricots in here and dates. I'm trying to dig around for another date. Dates are going to be a little bit sweeter than the apricots, but looks like, oh, here's another date. Maybe I'll use an apricot and a couple of dates. So because it is milder than maple syrup. If I was using a sweetener like honey or maple syrup, I'd probably use like a tablespoon. Here I'm using a little bit more, so I'm using like 2 tablespoons of dried fruit. All right, gonna toss that out. Okay, we got a good robust boil going on the millet. And this is often what I do when I'm cooking. I don't know about you guys, but instead of making just one thing at a time, I'm often multitasking. It's, I figure, okay, once I got this going, I'm gonna turn down the heat, let that simmer. I don't really have to do much there, just keep an eye on it. So while it's cooking and doing its thing, I'm doing my thing and I'm making something else. So I'm going to get these apples going. All right, so I'm just going to smush around this fruit. Since it's been soaking, it's fairly smushable, at least the dates are. The apricot, not so much. That's not smushing, so I'm going to chop that up, actually. I use my knife, give that a little chop. Sorry, can you guys see my board here? So I'm just going to mince this. This is where you want a good sharp knife. I always recommend, especially with more plant-based ingredients, having a good sharp knife. And someone actually gave feedback the other day that part of the Healthy Meal Prep Summit, one of our speakers had mentioned doing a demo on knife sharpening and didn't really get around to doing it. So I'm sorry for that. But you know what? I'm going to make up for that, and I'm going to show everybody how to sharpen a knife. So that's going to be one of my demos coming up next week. So tune in to watch me do knife sharpening. If you really want to know how to sharpen a good stainless steel knife like this, that's the way to go. However, if you don't really want to do knife sharpening, you can always get a ceramic knife, or there's other types of knives that just stay sharp that you don't have to sharpen. So that's not so bad either. Okay, so I'm just mixing up the dried fruit with the almond butter, and I'm going to add a little touch of vanilla extract. So that just adds a nice little kind of that apple pie sort of flavor. So maybe like, I don't know, 1/4 teaspoon. We really only have an apple and a half here. And then just a few dashes of our cinnamon. And you can do this same recipe with pears. I guess you could do like peaches. You just wouldn't want to cook peaches as long because this is a harder vegetable. It takes a little longer to cook. Now, if I want to give a little caramely flavor, the thing with caramel is that it's not only sweet, but it's a little salty. So how are we going to get that salt in there? We can use our Redmond salt, a little pinch of that. Again, skip this part if you're doing no sodium. I know there's lots of different diets out there and some people do no sodium, so that's fine. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my miso here. This is a nice fermented food. Sorry, this is probably showing backwards, but just like 1/2 teaspoon of miso. It's a fermented bean paste. In this case, chickpeas. No, it's not. No, this is sweet brown miso. So it's brown rice and soybeans. But I do also have a chickpea miso that's the same color, kind of a light brown, and really nice. So if you're avoiding soy, there are types of misos. This is South River Miso brand. Love this brand. It comes in glass jars. It's available here in the US. So that's really nice. But, wherever you are, see what your local health food store has. If you don't have miso available, no problem. Just go with the salt. My recipes are adaptable. You can always, tweak it up. And I try to use ingredients that you can mostly find at your regular grocery store. But miso is one that you might need to go to a health food store for. Okay, so now I have a generous tablespoon of this caramely mixture. The almond butter, the dried fruit, the cinnamon, vanilla. Did I mention nut butter? And we're just going to put a generous tablespoon on top of each one, along with that coating on the bottom of the fruit juice. Put this on top, and then show you what we have. This is kind of like a baked stuffed apple. Oh, forgot raisins. I was going to put little currants in there, but you know what? They're filled already. I think we're just going to go with that. And let me show you how it looks. So there we go. We just have our, I'm not going to tilt it too much, otherwise it'll slide out. But yeah, those are our apples. They're filled with their filling. I'm going to put this on the stove now to come up to a boil. Sorry for my back. Again, that's the live aspect. That's going to come up to like kind of a gentle boil. And then I'm going to lower that to simmer for maybe like 20 minutes, kind of see how they're doing. It really depends on your stove and your, you know, how your burners work exactly. Your low might be different than my low setting, but I'm going to simmer on low, kind of a medium low for, yeah, roughly 15 or 20 minutes. You just want to keep an eye on it that your liquid doesn't completely evaporate. You don't want to burn the bottoms of the apples, but you also don't want, again, too much liquid. So you want to keep it cooking enough so that it really cooks down and reduces so that it kind of pretty much evaporates by the end. It's sort of a fine line. You want the liquid to evaporate, but not burn. So that's where you just sort of have to keep an eye on it. My grandfather used to say, keep your belly button to the stove. So cute. He was Italian. All right. So this is cooking nicely. Again, we don't really want to stir this or agitate it. You just basically want to set a timer for 25 minutes, and that's going to cook up beautifully. It has kind of a nice flavor just from the vegetables, but if you want to add something else at the end, like maybe a little, you know, pesto or something like that to give it even more flavor, or once it cools, you can add some chopped herbs, like some chopped fresh parsley or scallions or something like that. You can do that. If you want this to cool faster, by the way, one tip is to take a baking sheet, a cookie sheet, and just like spread it out on the baking sheet and just kind of fluff it around with a fork, and it's going to cool down a lot faster. So if you need to go to like a, I don't know, I guess we're not really having, are we having socially distanced picnics or things like that? Probably not. The summer's sort of winding down anyway. But anyway, if you just want it to cool down faster, that's just a little tip that you can spread it on a baking sheet if you want to more quickly cool it to get it in your refrigerator. So those are our two recipes. And while these are cooking, I am going to go back and see if I can see any comments on the Facebook page. So let me just see here. One moment, guys. I'm just going to be off screen here for a second to see if we have any comments. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. Let's see. I always like to go back and I check the comments though after a video goes live. I will visit, you know, see the comments and see, oh, here we go. Wendy Catone, audio sounds great. Thank you, Wendy. Hey, and there's Bernadette saying, thank you. You're welcome, Bernadette. And I just see two comments at this point, so that's great. Hey, Bernadette and Wendy, do you guys have any questions for me? I'm just going to keep the question area handy. And I'm sorry, for those of you watching on YouTube, there I can't see comments right now either, but I'm going to get this set up so that I will be able to answer questions in real time a little bit better on both platforms. But there too, I will check the comments. I always check my comments on YouTube. I'm at Christine's Natural Kitchen. I post recipe videos every Wednesday. So, you know, check over there for lots of great recipes that are, you know, edited and all the fluff. These are a little bit more organic, as you know, these lives. Audio sounds great. Thank you. Oh, and Marilyn. Hey, Marilyn. Great to see you on here. I'm so glad you came back. So I'm all yours. It's just the three of you, as far as I know, who are commenting. Others might be watching. But if you guys have questions for me, please shout out. What brand of knives do you use? There we go. So this is an NHS knife. So this is a nice little stainless steel knife. I love that one. Let's see what else I have in my drawer, though. I'm a little bit of a knife hoarder, I have to say. Let me see. I do have some other knives. And my daughter even has a knife. She's got a set of little kid knives that are just like plastic serrated, but I don't know the brand of that one. Let me see, actually. Let me grab my glasses. And actually, I hear this sizzling away back here. I'm going to turn this down. I've got quite a boil going on the apple, so we just want to turn that down. So this is a pure Komachi. This is a high carbon stainless steel knife. But again, this is one that you don't really, as far as I know, don't need to sharpen. I've never sharpened this, and it stays really sharp. The NHS knife you do need to sharpen, so I'm going to show you guys that how to do that next week. Again, I'll be live every day here on Facebook and on YouTube at 11 Eastern time, and every day on Instagram at 12. So this is a Messermeister. This one was a little bit of an investment. It's like an olive wood handle, but I just love this one. It's a hefty knife. It's a nice big knife, but this is great too. Now, I should say the ceramic knives, if you are using the ceramic knives, which I mentioned, which don't need to be sharpened, those are going to be more delicate. So if you're cutting into like a hard winter squash, be careful. I chipped one once. I got like a little chip in there, and then you kind of have to replace it. You can't use it after you chip them. So just watch out for that. So all right, so this is cooking along nicely. I did not set a timer, but again, this will be about 25 minutes. That's just kind of a nice side dish. If you want to make this millet with vegetables a little bit more of a complete meal, what could you do? What could you add to it for your protein? Well, if you're looking for plant-based protein, you can just maybe once it cools down, toss it with some chickpeas or some, pinto beans. Some kind of a bean would go nicely in there, I think. Or you can just serve it on the side with a bean soup. So next week, my plan is to get out on YouTube a lentil soup recipe because that's just such a nice, easy bean recipe. Okay, we've got about 5 more minutes before I have to hop on my live over on Instagram. So do you guys, oh, here we go. Bernadette's asking, I wanted to ask you about something different. Sourdough starter. What would be the best starter to buy? Bernadette, I have to admit, I've been a little hesitant to adventure too much into the sourdough baking, but part of my live show is going to be including some guest teachers. So I'm going to be featuring, I have to ask her, but someone I'm just thinking of who's always posting these gorgeous pictures of her sourdough bread. She's really more the expert from Teaching Table. So I'm going to be asking her soon to join us as maybe a featured guest and do like a joint Zoom call. But to answer your question, I did order some sourdough starter. It was from a company in California. It's actually a pre-made dry mixture that they send you, and then you just, basically mix it with water, and it makes it a little easier. Because I have tried making my own starter. I think the issue was that my kitchen is too, it was too cool. I was doing this during like the end of winter. So it just was not panning out so much. I was getting some crepes and things like that, but to make bread, you really have to have a good starter going. So you can literally just mix together the flour and the water. There are recipes out there if you Google them. You could try that. You just want to keep it in a warm place. That's the key. You have to have maybe even like a light bulb, in your oven, and like a, they say if you put some water source in there, like a bowl of water in your oven, there's different ways you can create that warm environment that it needs to kind of grow and get started. But yeah, those are just my basic comments to respond to your question. But as far as the best starter to buy, I'm going to look around for which company I did get that starter from. I think it was San Francisco sourdough. I don't know. I got to get back to you on that. But yeah, you can definitely purchase an organic starter that makes it a lot easier to make your own sourdough bread. That's a great question, Bernadette. I hear some crackling back here. Let me just check out our apples. So, the water has kind of evaporated. So, I mean, the liquid, the pear nectar, I'm going to add another splash. So just know that when you're making them, you really have to just sort of keep an eye on it and keep an ear tuned to your cooking. So anyway, that'll cook for another, 10 or 15 minutes beyond the scope of this live, but that's going to be delicious when it's done. I can always post a picture of it later. And the millet also needs a little bit more time, but those are our recipes for today. So if you guys have questions about this, or better yet, if you try making them yourself, I would love to see pictures posted here. Of course, you probably want like the written recipe. I should probably get that together for you. But, just to kind of recap, it was 1 cup of millet with basically, it was like 1.5 cups of vegetables. And it was 2.5 cups of water, and it was a little pinch of salt. That's all that was in that. For the apples back here, it was 1.5 apples. It was about 2 tablespoons or so of almond butter. You could add raisins to that. It was a couple dashes of cinnamon, a little touch of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon or so. It was, it was actually 2 dates and 1 dried apricot. What else? Yeah, it was like a little pinch of salt and a little bit, a 1/4 teaspoon or so of the miso. So that's all that was in the apples. So I think these recipes are pretty basic, simple, easy to prepare. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I'm going to be coming back to do another live on Monday, so I hope you can join me again at 11 o'clock. I think we're going to really build up a little community here with these lives. It'll be fun to interact with you guys on a regular basis. So thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any suggestions for recipes you'd like to see me make, or anything related to cooking, like our knife sharpening that we'll do on Monday as well. All right, have a great weekend, guys, and I will catch you later.